The Activision acquisition, it's being blocked in the UK. Just when it seemed like the tides were about to start turning in Microsoft's direction, they got dealt a pretty significant blow today in the UK, with the UK coming out saying, look, we don't think this transaction should go through. We are going to block it. And their arguments, I see the arguments, but let's just dive into what was actually said and then kind of work backwards through what is actually going to be happening here, because Microsoft is not going to be able to close this by June 30th, which has significant ramifications to the actual deal itself. So let's dive in. So this is directly from the UK CMA's actual publication. There's no third party in between. This is their own words. They say Microsoft Activision deal prevented to protect innovation and choice in cloud gaming. Now, the cloud gaming is the key component that the UK has a big issue with. It's not Call of Duty, it's not console sales, it is specifically the fact that the UK believes cloud gaming is a growing market, it's an emerging market, and that by Microsoft buying up Activision, then this is going to cause significant problems for the maturity of this arena, if you will, this marketplace. And that's what it boils down to. So they put out not a lengthy statement, but just a relatively concise statement that listed out the remedies and everything else that we're going through. But it really just came down to cloud gaming. And they came out and said Microsoft's remedies did not sufficiently cover different cloud gaming service business models, including multi-game subscription service. It was not sufficiently open to providers who might wish to offer versions of games on PC operating systems other than Windows. And so I interpret that to mean a game that is potentially on a Mac and in Game Pass. So that might be a sticking point, which is an odd scenario, but that is one that it appears to be out there, maybe Linux as well. But let's be honest, there's more Mac users, so Xbox Game Pass on Mac might be one of the sticking points here. And then it says it would also standardize the terms and conditions in which games are available, as opposed to them being determined by the dynamicism and creativity of the competition in the market, as would be expected in the absence of the merger. So that's their argument. Those are the three kind of sticking points of what Microsoft is dealing with. And as of right now, this deal is officially blocked in the UK. It doesn't mean the deal is dead. We'll get to that here in a second. I want to keep going through the UK's own documentation here. So what it really boils down to, based on if you read everything that they wrote, it says cloud gaming needs a free, competitive market to drive innovation and choice. That is best achieved by allowing the current competitive dynamics in the cloud gaming to continue to do their job. And so, yeah, it looks like Microsoft's cloud gaming remedies were not sufficient to get this through the UK's hurdle. And that's what is slamming the door shut on this. Now, it's up to you, dear listener, to determine, is the cloud gaming market something that is the future? The UK firmly believes, based on their language here, that the emerging market of cloud gaming is the future, and it's a new marketplace coming online, and that by Microsoft snatching up Activision, it is going to stifle that growth in that segment. It's up for debate whether or not that is the long-tailed future of the gaming world, if it's not consoles, because clearly they don't have an issue with console sales or potentially even games on a PC directly related. And so it's cloud gaming is what the UK is trying to protect here. And Microsoft didn't do a sufficient job of making their case that they would protect that segment. That is what you need to know. But there's a lot more to it than that, because the big question becomes, it's like, hey, Brad, well, what is going to happen next? So in theory, Microsoft, and actually there is no theory to this, Microsoft's Brad Smith, not Brad Sams, this is not me, has realistically just come out and said, look, we will be challenging this. They're going to appeal it in the courts, and they're going to go that route. Now, that is not a clear-cut path, right? The CMA has a lot of evidence that they are clearly going to be using to justify this, but the bigger takeaway from all of this is that there is no way that they're going to get this thing done by June 30th unless somehow they come to an agreement outside the courts, which I suspect is not going to happen, because why would they issue this ruling if they felt that they could go that route? But it's very clearly that Microsoft is going to be headed to the courts in the UK, and that they're going to be challenging this ruling. And that is a very big deal. Now, Foss Patents, which I'll link to down in the description here, actually noted, so if Microsoft does not close this deal by June 30th, they're going to have to renegotiate the contract with Activision to acquire them. Otherwise, Microsoft can be on the hook to pay $3 billion as an effective breakup fee for this acquisition failing to go through. That is the penalty that Microsoft has to pay. This is very standard contract terms, right? Microsoft saying you're going to buy them does materially impact what Activision is valued at. That being said, it is widely believed that Microsoft would easily be able to renegotiate an extension on that deal, because nobody in their right mind is going to be paying $70 billion for Activision in the current climate. Microsoft is likely overpaying, honestly, in my opinion, at this point. So it at least gives Microsoft maybe a get out of jail not free for $3 billion instead of $70 billion. But either way, I still think Microsoft, and Brad Smith is very clearly saying that, they're going to continue to pursue trying to acquire this. Now, the super crazy, interesting thing that kind of comes out of here is like, okay, a few weeks ago, we heard that the UK was leaning towards approving this deal. And that kind of sent off a firestorm that, yeah, Microsoft would be able to get this through. But if you read very specifically what they wrote, and that's what's up on the screen here, which is directly from the UK CMA, they talk more about Call of Duty in the PlayStation side. So what it boils down to is the CMA is not actually concerned about Sony. They're not actually concerned about Call of Duty. They're specifically only concerned about cloud gaming. And because of Microsoft's massive advantage of having a cloud infrastructure service, Azure, they also have a desktop operating system, Windows. Now they also have a game console, right? They don't have a mobile platform. Remember, they don't have Windows Phone is not a thing anymore. But the UK believes that that is enough to give them a massive advantage in the cloud segment, and that is where the concern comes in, not with Call of Duty, which is something to just keep note of as this process continues to go. Now, things that still are out there, it is believed, unless things turn around, if the EU is expected to give a ruling here in the not too distant future related to the same court case, and if the EU approves it, that's when things get super interesting. We're still not sure what's going to happen in the US, right? Microsoft is still dealing and battling with that, but there is a non-zero chance that Microsoft gets approval in the EU, approval in the US, but not in the UK. This is going to be the interesting real scenario here, because what does Microsoft do then? Microsoft would absolutely close the deal, and I bet they would be trying to figure out creative ways to work around the UK block, and that they could deal with it in that regard, saying like, look, that little entity is not going to allow us. And you got to remember, other countries have already approved this. That doesn't mean that every country is going to. The key are the US and the EU. Now, if the EU comes out and blocks this, although they have indicated that that does not seem to be the case, and I think it was Reuters leaked that they were going to approve it, then it will continue. But if the EU does end up blocking Microsoft's deal, then it might be dead in the water. But as of right now, it is absolutely not dead in the water. And this is a pretty significant hurdle. There's no other way to describe it for Microsoft, because if they got approval here, that would really streamline their process. They'd have some momentum going into the EU and with the US. But as of right now, it's a big hindrance. So it's not dead yet. If you were hoping that the Activision deal would close in the near future, unfortunately, it does not look like that is going to be the case. It looks like June 30th is going to be a bit of a wish to get something done, and they're going to need a lot of help to get that closed. So I would not expect this to be done by June 30th. I expect that this to be dragged on for quite a bit while longer. And so now, as we watch to see what happens in the EU, that is where everybody should be paying attention to. We will just have to sit and twiddle our thumbs, because the UK has slammed their foot down on cloud gaming, which is going to drag this on even further. So if you want to stay updated on everything happening in the world of Xbox and beyond, make sure to keep it subscribed here, because the only BS on this channel is me.